All right, Pastor Benjer is going to be preaching today, and we are going to be in Isaiah chapter 9, verses 1 through 7, and that can be found on page 541 in the Black Bible under the seat in front of you. And if you don't have a Bible at home or it's in a translation that's really difficult to read, man, we would just love for you to take that home as our gift from us to you today, and just let that be your Bible. But here at Flourishing Grace, we do believe that this is the Word of God, so in honor and reverence for that, if you could please stand with me while I read our text starting in verse 1. But there will be no gloom for her who was in anguish. In the former time he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he has made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shone. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as they are glad when they divide the spoil. For the yoke of his burden and the staff for his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, you have broken as on the day of Midian. For every boot of the trampling warrior in battle tumult, and every garment rolled in blood will be burned as fuel for the fire. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. The increase of his government and of his peace there will be no end on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks, Paige. Y'all can have a seat. Good morning, Flourishing Grace. My name is Benjer. If we've never met, I'm the lead pastor, and I will always enjoy preaching, being a little bit soaked from baptism. In fact, it fires me up a little bit, so I hope you're ready for this today. One of the things I love about being a dad is I've got 5 kids, and the oldest is senior in high school, and the youngest is in 3rd grade. One of the things I love about being a parent of just any age of kids is Pixar movies. Okay? Now, don't judge, because I know you've been watching those Hallmark movies and then the Netflix, knockoffs and the whole thing. It's been in my house, too. I will watch Pixar movies for as long as I can. In fact, when Toy Story 13 comes out, I'm going to be the first in line to take my grandkids, and we are going to be there because I love it. And one of the things that you and I both love about Pixar movies, by the way, if you've never seen one, do yourself a favor, go home, stream Disney Plus, and just start with Toy Story 1 and then go from there. It's going to take the rest of your life, but you're going to love it. One of the things we love about it is, I don't know if you know this, but Pixar movies, the story actually follows a very similar kind of track. And you're like, well, all stories do. They actually have kind of a formula that they work from. They vary a little bit from movie to movie, but there's a basic formula that they kind of work through, all right? And we're going to be up here on the screen. The first one is this: once upon a time, and you're like, okay, this has been going on for ages. That's not really creative. You'd be right, but this is where it begins. Once upon a time, there are creatures, there are toys, there are monsters, there's weird fish in the sea somewhere. This is the life that's going on. And then every day, this is what their life is like. This is the status quo. It's boring, or they're being oppressed. Whatever it is, it's the same each and every day, and that's just the way that it is. Until one day, something happens. Somebody gets stolen by somebody in a boat. Buzz Lightyear is introduced into Andy's room and just upsets everybody. Something happens that creates all this tumult and just ruins the status quo. And because of that, these events happen. And then because of those events, something else happens, and everything is all over the place, and you don't know if it's going to be okay, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, and is these people going to die, or are these toys going to be okay, until finally there's resolution, and you know how it's going to end. And listen, I love that. Even I'm watching the movie for the 5th time. My 9-year-old's there with her hands over her eyes, and she's scared, but I'm on the edge of my seat because it looks like Lotso's going to win in Toy Story 3, and Buzz and Woody, they're headed down into the incinerator at the Tri-County landfill, and is everything going to be okay? And then comes through at the end, and it's okay. And I love it each and every time, and you love it too, because we all love a great reversal. We love a story where things were not going to be okay, and suddenly they're not just okay, status quo, they're better than they ever have been before. And friends, that is the story that we have today in Isaiah 9. We have a great reversal. But to understand this great reversal, we have to see what was wrong. We have to work through the first part of it. And as we walked through some of the prophecies of Isaiah in this season of Advent, we are looking at times in the book of Isaiah when God speaks through Isaiah and foreshadows and predicts what the Messiah, Jesus, would do 8 centuries before he was even ministering here on earth. And to do that, as we walk through Advent, I don't know if you're familiar with Advent. Advent is a season of waiting that's been practiced and observed by Christians for over 1,000 years, about the 4 weeks before Christmas, not only to prepare our hearts to worship the baby born in the manger who is Christ the Lord, but also looking in anticipation for his coming again, saying, "Come, Lord Jesus, would you break into our lives and would you come one day again?" And in order to do that, we have been walking through an acrostic that we actually use on Wednesdays during our noon prayer gathering here at Flourishing Grace. And if you've never heard of our noon prayer gathering, or you've never been, or you're going to have a little bit of time off in December, we'd invite you to come here at noon. It's on the website. Anybody can show up, and we'd love to pray with you and walk through it as a group. But here's the acrostic that we walk through every Wednesday. Pray. Friends, I'm simple, and so when Brett Turner introduced this to our church, he's like, "Benjer needs something simple," and so we're going to go with pray, all right? We're going to pray with pray. The first one is pause. We talked about this last week. This is God, what do you have for us? Let me stop. Let me recognize and invite God into this space because he is already present, and we need to be aware of it. The second one is rejoice. And this is not a fake rejoice. This is not saying, okay, everything's terrible, but I'm going to pretend like everything's okay. No matter what is happening in our lives, God is doing something. And we can rejoice at that. But that doesn't keep us from asking because some things are not okay. We need to ask. God knows every request before we even say it, but he wants to hear from us and be in relationship with us, and we're supposed to ask. This is what Scripture says. He wants us as little children to ask. God, this is going on in my life. I see this over here in my daughter's life. I see this over here in my friend's life. I'm in anguish or pain over here. Would you do something? And then yield. After all of that, this is not my will be done, but yours be done. And so today we are at rejoice because of the great reversal. And as I said, a great reversal can only come when things are not good. If we go back to chapter 8 in Isaiah, starting in verse 21, let me read it and then tell you a little bit about what's been going on. It says, "They will pass through the land greatly distressed and hungry." It's talking about the nation of Israel. "And when they are hungry, they will be enraged and will speak contemptuously against the king and their God, turn their faces upwards." I don't know about you, but this describes me. When I forget about who God is and he leaves me to my own devices and he's like, "All right, let's see how that works out, Benjer." And then it works out the way that everybody knew that it would. I'm like, "God, why did you let me do this?" This is us. This is us. "And they will look to the earth, but behold, distress and darkness, the gloom of anguish, and they will be thrust into thick darkness." You see what Isaiah is prophesying. And this is about 150 years before the nation of Israel would eventually be defeated, and the southern kingdom of Judah would be exiled to Babylon. He's saying this is God's discipline for your sin against God. And not just like in a capricious way, but what was happening in the land of Israel is they were worshiping God with their lips, saying, "God, we love you, and we're going to follow all your laws, and we're going to go to the temple, and we're going to worship, and we're going to sacrifice, and we're going to do all these things. We're going to do it perfectly." But in their actions, the poor of the land were oppressed. Widows and orphans went hungry. But this is not the way that God designed it. And even in the midst of all of this, they began to forget about God at all and worshiped other gods. And it showed up more and more and more in their culture. It was broken. It was dark. It was dark. And this is the situation into which Isaiah prophesies, and this is the great reversal, starting in chapter 9, verse 1. But, man, that's a beautiful word. That's a gospel word. Gospel just means good news. That is good news, friends. That word is good news. "There will be no gloom for her who was in anguish. In the former time, he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time, he has made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations." Now, this is more than just like a geography lesson. You see, Zebulun and Naphtali, these were tribes of Israel, and they lived in the northern part of Israel. And they were the first, when God sent the nation of Assyria to defeat Israel as part of his discipline, they were the first to feel the brunt of it. Because one of the most difficult things about this darkness, I think sometimes we want to pretend like, oh, this is happening to us and I have no part in this. No, we own our slice of the pie. And they were the first in the northern region to feel the brunt of God's discipline, and the Assyrians attacked them. But in the latter time, he's made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. This is more than just a geography lesson. This is the moment of the great reversal. You know, when all is lost and the characters, the toys are about to be incinerated, or nobody can find Dory or wherever she is, and all of a sudden there's a glimmer of hope. The character looks up and sees something, or there's a realization, or something comes out of nowhere. This is that small glimmer of hope. Because when Jesus came on the scene, when 100% God, 100% human, when he began his ministry, it was in Galilee. This is part of the great reversal. The first people to feel the brunt of God's discipline were the first to feel the beauty of his grace and his mercy. This is how much God loves his people. The people who walked in darkness, verse 2, have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them a light has shone. Friends, here's what is happening. Isaiah is explaining in a prophecy what it would look like for the Messiah to come on the scene. And it's these people dwelling in their darkness. And it's their own darkness. It's their own brokenness. It's their own sin. And they see a great light. Here's the thing. When you are in deep darkness, you can't produce your own light. This isn't a story of, all right, they figured out how to make a fire and they got some light and they worked their way back and God said, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to come the rest of the way. No, they are in pitch black. This past summer, my family and I, we went up to a place called Ogden Valley, not far from here. If you've never been, there's a city called Eden and some other towns up there. It was great. We just went up there during the summer months and played in the reservoir and had some games. And the condo we stayed at, the main level was where all the living spaces were in terms of the kitchen and the living room and where you came in. But the bedrooms were in the basement. And then the windows were like below ground, so there were some windows, but it was really, really dark. And when you go through the bathroom and you shut the door, it is pitch black. And so on the second day, I'm in the shower and got the shampoo in my hair, and even though my eyes were closed, I could tell something changed. The lights went out. And immediately I'm like, well, somebody probably, like my kids might do this, but I didn't hear anybody come in. Somebody probably didn't switch off the light. The power must have gone out. Not a problem. I'm still taking a shower. My family knows I'm in the shower. Eventually, Jennifer's going to come downstairs and make sure I'm okay. No. Apparently, taking care of the kids in the blackout and making sure they're okay was more important than taking care of me. And so I finish up. I didn't even know where to turn off the water because this wasn't my bathroom. If I was at home, probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. So I got to stumble around. I don't know where my clothes are. I don't know where the towel is. I don't know where anything is. When you are in darkness, you don't know where anything is. You don't know where to go. You have no hope, and you cannot produce your own light. This is the beauty of this. It is God who breaks in, and the Messiah's light shines. And by the way, it doesn't just illuminate us and the things around us. It illuminates everything in our lives and shows us. It shows us where the brokenness is and where Jesus is healing that brokenness. It's a beautiful thing. And then in verse 3, you have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy in the harvest, and they are glad when they divide the spoil. This you have multiplied the nation. This is a direct reference to a promise that God made to Abraham. You see, before the nation of Israel, before they were in Egypt and in slavery, and before the Exodus, before all of that, God called Abraham and made promises to him that would eventually be fulfilled in the nation of Israel and be fulfilled in us. Let me show you what this looks like. In Genesis 15, God does this with Abraham, and he, meaning God, brought him, meaning Abraham, outside and said, look towards heaven and number the stars if you're able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your offspring be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. You see, before Abraham, I don't know if you know the story of Abraham, he and Sarah could not have kids at a certain point. They were old, and they thought it was past them. It just wasn't going to happen for them. And then God's like, by the way, I'm going to make a great nation of your descendants. And Abraham's like, what descendants? God, have you seen what's happening? Do you see that I actually have, I don't even have one. I don't even have one, let alone a nation of descendants, excuse me. And what he's saying is, you have multiplied the nation. The fulfillment of that promise to Abraham wasn't just fulfilled through Israel. It was fulfilled through you and me by faith. By faith, we become children of Abraham. And then with joy at the harvest, this is God's provision. There's not going to be any more need. And they are glad when they divide the spoil, which is what happens after a victorious battle. There is no more threat from the enemy. This is what God is doing. And then verse 4 and 5, what else is he doing through the Messiah? For the yoke of his burden, and the staff of his shoulder, and the rod of his oppressor, those are all symbols of oppression. Those are all symbols of slavery. Those are all symbols of the darkness of not being your own person and not being free. You have broken as on the day of Midian, which is going back to Gideon, who God used to free Israel from the Midians. And I love this. This is great for like my 11-year-old boy. For every boot of the trampling warrior in battle tumult, and every garment rolled in blood. Man, that's graphic. Will be burned as fuel for the fire. Like that's really awesome. Here's why this is awesome. Not just because it's cool. This isn't, all right, the battle's over, we're going to put them on the shelf. No, the garments of war are burned because there is no more war. There are no more enemies. There is no more tumult. This is the great reversal. This is what God will do. What does this look like? Okay, so what we just read in verses 2 through 5, where there was brokenness, Jesus brought healing. He's broken in. Where there's darkness, Jesus is your light. Where there was death and scarcity and fear, there is provision from God. There is peace. There is safety. I got to believe that there are people who have walked into this room and your experience of life is just always being on edge because you don't know what the next bad thing to happen is. Jesus' peace breaks into your life. Where there were enemies, he's brought you peace. That's the great reversal. That's the great reversal. Now, here's what we need to know. Where everything was dark and everything was bad and the light has shone and Jesus does this, here's what I really want you to see. You remember the Pixar movies? Here's why you and I love Pixar movies. Here's why my kids love it, and here's why they make so much money. It's because the heroes of the story come from within. And then because the heroes of the story come from within, my kids want to be the heroes, and so then we got to go drop $40 just so we can get the authentic, Buzz Lightyear, whatever, because they want to dress up as him. That's how it works, right? But that's not how God's story works. That's not how the great reversal works. You see, I think when you and I realize that we are in darkness, we're like, yeah, I understand that. We look at our own lives or we look at the lives around us and we look at the world and we say, yeah, things are tough. Things are dark. Things are difficult. We want to believe that if we would just do enough, if we could just work hard enough, if we could just have the right idea or be brave enough, then we could be the hero. You and I are not the hero of this story, friends. I think some of us need to hear that this Christmas. You and I are not the hero of our own story. And I think for those of you who are here who are not followers of Jesus, I think a lot of people in this room are followers of Jesus. If you're not a follower of Jesus, if your story is like anything like mine, it's because I would have rather been the hero of my own story. The difficult step for me was to yield and was to surrender to Jesus and let him be the story, be the hero of the story. And this is what he does. Verse 6, for to us a child is born, and to us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Now we're going to sit here for a minute. First of all, the government shall be upon his shoulders. We got the son being born. We know what this means. We can, even if they didn't understand it in the moment, we get to look on the other side of Jesus' ministry and life and his death on the cross, and we get to see, man, rescue did not come the way that you and I thought it would come. It comes through a child. Jesus, Messiah, eternal Son of God, is born, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. What does that mean? What does that mean? You see, in ancient times, when somebody would be crowned king. They would receive a robe or even like a garment with insignia on their shoulders. You can actually see this like with the King of England. When he's in official garb, there's like these insignia on his shoulders. What that represents is two things. First of all, it is the authority. On his shoulders rests the authority to rule and to reign. And so what he's saying is this Messiah is receiving the authority to rule and to reign. He has the authority. But it also signifies the weight of ruling and reigning. It signifies the weight. The weight of the world is literally on his shoulders, and he can handle it. Here's what I know about you. All of us have walked through something difficult. That might be 2025. That might be a difficult Christmas season for you because everybody feels joyful and you look around and everybody's smiling. You're supposed to provide like great experiences for your kids. You're supposed to have fun at the Christmas party or whatever it might be, but you feel this weight. Here's what I know about you. You have tried to deal with that pain and whatever's happening in your life in one of two ways. One of the ways you've tried to do it is you've tried to give your trust and trust in something besides King Jesus to help you. You've put your trust in things. You've put your trust in a career. You've put your trust in somebody else. You've put your trust in a relationship. And you've been burned. You put your trust in something else to carry that weight. Or, if you're anything like me, and I think there's more of us in the room than we want to admit, you just carry that on your shoulders because you've been burned one too many times. There's no way I'm trusting somebody with that. Somebody was supposed to come through. My parents were supposed to come through. I trusted somebody with this job, and then I was burned. I've been burned one too many times, and nobody can save me but me. And so you've thrown all that weight on your shoulders, and you are carrying that through your life. I'm going to be the one to take care of my kids. I'm going to be the one to take care of myself because this person left or my spouse left. I'm going to be the one to take care of myself financially. I can't trust in anybody else. And so you're carrying that with you, and it's on your shoulders. And you're like, I'm fine. Like, it's fine. And you're like, no, look at you. It's not fine. It's not. You're not okay. Friends, this is a place where it's okay to not be okay. You were never meant to carry that weight. King Jesus was meant to carry that weight. And here's how he does it. There's 4 names that were named in this verse. And by the way, before we even get into them, we're going to fly through them pretty quickly, but this is what I want you to see. Underneath each of these titles, underneath each of these names for the Messiah, for King Jesus, beneath them is a way that they meet you in your deepest longing. And you might be saying, I don't know about that. But what I'm talking about is the thing beneath the thing. I'm not talking about your longing for a relationship. What I'm wondering is, what is the thing beneath that longing? What is the thing that you are trying to fulfill? What is the thing beneath the thing when you are trying to just succeed at any cost so that people would see, oh man, that's a good guy? What is the thing beneath the thing in that anxiety where you're like, well, I'm anxious about this. Well, what really are you anxious about? What is the thing beneath the thing? And I think one of these should hit you where you're at because it represents a longing that Jesus fills. The first one is this: wonderful counselor. And by the way, wonderful doesn't refer to like awesome. Like he's really, really good. He's really, really smart. He's a counselor. He's wise. No, wonderful refers to the miraculous works of God. That's what this word means. The miraculous works of God. So this isn't just a smart buddy who like knows how to help you in your career or somebody who can help you be a good mom or help you along in school. No, this is somebody who has the depth of divine wisdom and the ability to carry it out. This is the person who's actually there for you. Except for it's not a person. It is the mighty God. It is the Prince of Peace. It is the eternal Son of God. He's a wonderful counselor. And he can actually do what he says he will do. Mighty God. This isn't just, man, mighty, like I can bench twice my body weight. No, this is a title given in ancient times for a victorious warrior. This is somebody who has gone out to battle and they've done their business. They have been victorious. This is the guy in Gladiator that you're like, I want to be like that guy. This is what mighty means, but it is mighty God. This is not just somebody who's going to fight for you. This is God who fights on your behalf. And I know there are people in this room who know they need God to fight on their behalf. Everlasting Father. Okay, we just need to pause on this one just for a minute. When I was 3 years old, my dad passed away. I grew up without a dad from that point on. He was diagnosed with cancer 6 weeks before I was born. And in my own life, and in the life of so many people that I have seen struggle with the relationship with God, more times than not, the core of that is a father wound. It is. It's a father. You might be like, I don't want to talk about all that soft stuff. No. One of the ways that makes it really, really difficult for us to relate to God in an intimate, loving way, to have a relationship with him and allow him to be our everlasting Father, is because we have a wound where either a father was not there or a father wasn't who they were supposed to be. And friends, everlasting Father, the fact that Messiah is eternal God and he can have the title of everlasting Father, this is not the Father that you know. This is not a father who fails. This is not a father who leaves. This is not a father who's capricious and gets angry. No, this is a father that has a continuous, never-ending love. His fatherly love is eternal. It is unwavering. It is protective. And it will never, never end. He is the everlasting Father. He is the everlasting Father. And then Prince of Peace. Listen, true peace is not the absence of conflict, just the absence of conflict. It's not just, okay, everything's fine, I feel okay, I'm not having conflict with this person. No, peace, what he means ultimately is peace with God. Jesus, who was born a baby and walked this earth without sin, died on the cross for you and for me so that we could be reconciled and have peace with God. This is not just, man, I hope nothing bad happens tomorrow. This is not just, I hope Christmas is okay and I don't get a fight with my sister-in-law or whatever it is. No, this is, I have peace with God. I have peace with God. This is what Jesus has done for us. So the next time you see a little manger scene this season and you look at that, oh, look at that cute little baby right there. Be like, no, that is the wonderful counselor. That is mighty God. That is everlasting Father. That is Prince of Peace. That is who brings about the great reversal. But how does he do it? Verse 7. Of the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. On the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and uphold it. This is the promised Messiah from ages past, with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Friends, there's so much here. There's just two phrases I want to point out here. First of all, of the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end. I love that phrase. It's not just, okay, of peace, of his peace, of his government, of his rule and reign, it'll never end. Of the increase of his government, of the increase of his rule and his reign, there will be no end. And of peace, the increase of peace, there will be no end. It is God's rule and reign through Jesus that never, ever ends. And it never stops increasing. Friends, I believe we're seeing signs of this. I think when we look at and we see God just changing lives, when we see people step into the waters of baptism, when we see people who experience victory over dark areas of their life that they never thought they'd have victory over, when we see relationships that seem like, man, they could never be reconciled, and suddenly they are reconciled in Jesus. We are seeing Jesus taking ground. That is what this means. God will never stop taking ground through Jesus. Jesus' rule and reign will never stop increasing. And here's what I think it means for you and me today. Here's what I think it means for you and me today. The more that we hand over aspects of our life to the rule and reign of Jesus, the more that we say, okay, I've been hiding this one for a while, but you can have this. The more that we say, and I didn't think you could touch this darkness, but I want you to have it. The more that we do that, the more we experience peace. And I want to be very careful. I'm not talking peace like everything in my circumstances is going to be okay. In fact, let me just tell you this. If you're not a follower of Jesus, this is probably bad PR, but if you're not a follower of Jesus, the more that if you decide to follow Jesus and the more that you step into a relationship with him, things might become difficult. It's not about peace in our circumstances, that it's the way that we want them to be. It is peace with God and peace knowing that he is the one that rules and reigns. He is the one that rules and reigns. Friends, some of y'all need a nap. Some of you do. One of the most spiritual things you could do today would be take a nap. Because you have been trying to keep that on your shoulders. You've been the one limping along. Today is a good day to hand over your life to the rule and reign of Jesus. And then one incredible phrase that actually be up here on the screen. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. We're going to keep this on the screen for a minute. First of all, Lord of hosts is an incredible title. This means like Lord of the armies, Lord of all that we see. This is a king that will never stop reigning. And it's his zeal that will do this. His zeal, that root for the word zeal is related to jealousy. But we really need to dig in here because when I think of jealousy, I think of me. Like I'm a jerk sometimes, okay? Sometimes I get jealous of people. Sometimes I am petty more often than probably I think I am. But that's not what zealous means when it is applied to God. Because God is not zealous because he's capricious and he just needs all the worship. And God, would you look at me, guys? No. What it means is he knows. He's zealous for you. He knows what harms you. He knows what the darkness does to your heart. He knows what the darkness does to your relationships. He knows what the darkness does to your life. He knows what the darkness does. And his zeal is white hot because he is jealous for you. And this is why I don't think we understand sin. I think we think of sin like, okay, there's some big ones over here, and yes, I need to stay away from those. But God, why are you so uptight about this over here? Like, not a big deal. Just a few white lies. I got to provide for my family. Why are you so uptight over here? What we don't understand is that when we give ourselves to something that is not Jesus, when we give the rule and reign of our lives to something that is not King Jesus, God is zealous for that because he loves us. And I love this motivating factor. I love the fact that the motivating factor behind this is his zeal. It is his zeal. It's his zeal for you and for his own glory. Because what glorifies God most is when he welcomes lost sinners home to him. Because of his love and his goodness and his mercy. And we might think, well, what about zeal against sin? Friends, that has been paid for. That has been paid for by Jesus on the cross. It is the zeal of the Lord of hosts that does this. That is what he thinks and feels about you. That is the motivating emotion behind it. And here's what you need to know about this. You guys ready? Deep breath. Take a deep breath. It doesn't depend on you. It's not on you. It's on him. You don't need to cook up enough effort and like try harder, do a little better. You don't need to say, okay, I'm gonna kick this, and then maybe I'm gonna be able to go to God, and then maybe I can be in relationship with him. One of the things that I've found, especially like going to places like Costco, I promise this relates, okay, is that when I buy things for the church, one of the fun things is I buy ridiculous things for the church at Costco. And it used to happen more often when I got to work in youth ministry because you'd have like 18 pineapples and 20 hula hoops, and somebody'd be like, "Are you okay, sir? Like, is everything going to be okay?" And you get to explain what's going on and then invite them to church. And when I got a no, more often it wasn't like, I don't like, singing, or I feel like you guys are this way and I don't agree with it. No, more often than not, it was related to them. And if I walk into that building, it's going to light on fire. And I'm like, do you know the people who go to church there? Yeah, some of you got that. Yeah. No, we all are in darkness and in brokenness without the light. We all are. Right? You can take a deep breath because it is the zeal of the Lord of hosts that will do this. It's not dependent on you. It's not dependent on you. So what do we do with all this? Okay, there's three things that I just want us to walk through. And my prayer and my hope and my burden is that one of these three things would be balm to your soul today and would challenge you. First one is this. The darkness you're in doesn't disqualify you from the light. Since the darkness you are in does not disqualify you from the light. So many people have told me, and I believe people in this room are thinking this, yeah, Benjer, that sounds great for you, but you're a pastor. All right, you haven't seen my darkness. You haven't seen my sin. You haven't seen my brokenness. You don't know what happened 20 years ago. You don't know what happened last night. You don't know what's in my heart. Friends, the darkness you're in doesn't disqualify you from the light. In fact, if anything, it qualifies you for the light because you need it. It's not dependent on you. It is a gift. That's the beauty of the zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Your darkness is not too dark for God. Your sin is not too sinful for God. Your brokenness is not too broken for God. Friends, your darkness does not disqualify you from the light. That's why the light is needed. That's why Jesus paid your debt on the cross. Doesn't disqualify you from that. Friends, this is the reason why Jesus came. He didn't just send you a flashlight and say, okay, figure it out. Come out of the darkness. He didn't just send you a candle and say, if you can make it far enough, I'm going to come get you. No, he sent his son who is the light, and it doesn't disqualify you from the light to be in darkness. Second thing, Jesus is the answer to your longings. Right? We talked through those titles, and I think sometimes we think, oh, that's a very pastor thing to say. Of course, the guy up there would say that. Listen, I have lived this. But you see, one of the things that happens, I realize I might be older than many of you in this room, but one of the things that happens in your 40s is you begin to look under the hood of your life, and I think this is a healthy thing to do, and begin to see, why am I the way that I am? It's not pretty. It's not pretty. You should take my wife out for coffee, okay? Sometime talk with her. Why am I the way that I am? What are the things beneath the things? And whether it's a 2 o'clock in the morning moment or whether you're just sitting by yourself or you realize, man, there are longings, there are things that I thought would happen by now. There is pain in my life. There is a hole in there. Friends, Jesus is the answer to those longings. Jesus is the answer to those longings. When you feel that darkness, he is the answer. He is the answer. And we've been trying to find it way too many other places. And the last one is this, friends. This is so important. To you a son is given. To you a son is given. To you a son is given. Friends, this is a gift, and you're all going to receive some gifts. Y'all are going to receive some gifts, and I know that you know what to do on Christmas morning or at your staff party or whatever it is, White Elephant. You know what to do with a gift, right? Somebody gives you a gift, and Mama taught you, so you say, thank you. All right, that's like 50% participation. We got to work on that, but you got a couple of weeks, okay? And you take that gift, and it's beautifully wrapped, and you shove it in the closet and just shut the door, right? No, thank you. No. That was my kid, by the way. No, they know how to receive gifts in our family. Like, they are awesome. Listen, you take the gift and you open it. You open it. You receive it. It becomes yours. You don't earn it. Like, if somebody comes to you with a gift and they're like, oh, this is so great, thank you. They're like, yeah, it was $25. If you could just pay me $5 a week for the next 5 weeks, we'll be even. Like, it's not a gift. You need a new friend. Actually, you don't need a friend. You just need to love them more, teach them about Jesus. I think it'll be fine. No, it is a gift. It is a gift. Friends, we talked about this last week, but I'm kind of stealing it from last week. God didn't just send a solution. He became the solution. He became the solution for you. Remember what we just talked about? He didn't send a flashlight. I hope you can figure this out. No, he came for you. He came to find you. He is the light. He's not scared of your dark. He's not scared of your brokenness. He's not scared of your sin. He became the solution. On us, a light has shone. To us, a son is given. Friends, today, December 7th, 2025, is a beautiful day to receive that gift. It's a beautiful day to receive that gift. This is what we will celebrate in a few weeks on Christmas Eve. That when we sing the songs that we all know, that when we behold the child who is lying in a manger, we will remember this is Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. This is the one who came to be the solution, to die for you and for me. And he is not scared of your darkness. And so this is what we're going to do. And during this last song, I'm going to invite our prayer team right now to the front and to the back. We'll have people in the front and the back. If you've never been in Flourishing Grace, or you've never seen this, during this last song, we're going to have people who are ready to receive you in prayer. Because we were never meant to do this alone. We were never meant to do this alone. And what I am praying for over the next few minutes is that God would do some work. And so here are a couple of prompts that maybe you can work through God with. If you have not yet given your life to Jesus, if you've not yet received that gift of salvation, of said, okay, God, I know that Jesus died for me, and I'm ready to accept that gift, these people would love to pray with you for that. Here's what you do. You just walk up to them and say, I'm ready to say yes to Jesus. And they will walk you through what that looks like. They will pray with you, and they will help you with the next step. Maybe you are a follower of Jesus. And what happens sometimes in the holidays, in the quiet moments, there's a lot of joy. There's a lot of joy. Christmas movies are the best. My kids are loving them. There's also a lot of pain. There's also a lot of pain. And if there is a longing beneath that pain, I'd invite you not just to stay sitting where you are, not just to sit tight. If you feel like God is compelling you and showing you that, walk up to one of these people and just say, this is the pain that I'd like some prayer for. They would love to bring that before Jesus in prayer. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe there's just, you haven't been able to pay attention because there is a weight on you. They would love to receive you in prayer. So what we're going to do over the next few minutes, we're going to sing one more song with a beautiful lyric, Come All Ye Unfaithful. That describes me far more, it seems. And Jesus wants to receive you. So during this song, I invite you to sing the song, but I also invite you to come forward or go back for prayer because Jesus is ready to welcome you. Let me pray. Father, when I was in darkness, I did not know it, but I could not find my way around. I could not save myself. I could not be my own light. I could not find my way, and you broke into my darkness through Jesus, and Jesus met me where I was all those years ago, and still you have been faithful through the years to be my light. And Father, I pray that today that would be somebody's experience, that they would see the light of Jesus for the first time and welcome it into their life today. Would you do that? Would you do that? Would you meet us where we are at today? Yes, we are unfaithful. Yes, we are broken. But your zeal is for us. And so, Father, would we receive that love, knowing that you are for us, and knowing that the reason Jesus came was to be our rescue. We pray these things in his name. Let all the people say,